The common cultural belief has mostly been that we need a narrative, a diachronic view on our life to establish moral values. But with our current understandings of the empathic and social nature of the brain, we now know that a purely scientific view with no attachment to our identity or story yields a far more accurate, meaningful, and ethical paradigm than our anecdotal values.
Okay, in the last video we talked about denial and judgment release, a little bit about that, and I showed you like how that kind of happens to people. And well, one thing that I didn't talk about too much was that every judgment and every denial is connected to pain. So when you have the denial of the judgment of I'm not good enough, right? Well, what is I'm not good enough is a feeling. And the feeling is painful. And the feeling is shame. I'm not good enough. You're ashamed. And it's a big issue. The shamed person being wrapped in shame, that shamed inner child. And that rules our life. So rather than be shamed, we deny it. We deny our shame. We get told thousands of times that we're not good enough, or stop doing what you're doing, and don't do this, don't do that, whatever. And in order to live, we have to deny that shame and become like some kind of little ideal child or a rebellious child or whatever it is. But all judgments, all pain is capped by a judgment or a denial. And we have a huge amount of pain in our emotional body. So all this stuff, our emotional body, our will, is the largest, most powerful, most loving, most comprehensive part of us. It's the largest part of the brain that we have. Our will brain is bigger than our head brain. And our heart brain is bigger than our head brain. So we're operating out of a very small chunk of what's available to us. And we are denying the rest of it. And it's that denying part, that judging part, that we have a hidden shame. It's a hidden shame, or a hidden fear, or a hidden suffering, or a hidden inadequacy at being accepted or loved or complete. So then we act our life out and we try to be the ideal person or rebellious person. And that ideal person, or that survivor person, or that rebellious person is a fraud. That's not who you are. That is who you are, minus the feeling of pain, the feeling of insecurity, or the feeling of hurt or wound or rage or terror at not having your needs met. So every judgment and every denial is connected to pain. And you can get to your pain through your judgment and denials by finding them and releasing them and then feeling them. But the other way is the actual natural way. It's when you feel your feelings, when you feel whatever you're really feeling, when you get into actual that level authenticity, and you say yes to your feelings, then what is denied becomes conscious. And then you can release that fully, change the whole reality that you are, and then you become authentic. And what we have here is that we are living a fake life. You may be successful and feel like, you know, a 12-year-old child who's like, you know, trying to, you know, show his dad that he's worth of love. Or you might be a little girl who's trying to, you know, be the best because she was always treated as the worst. So it's fake. It's fraud. And that's not the way you want to live. You don't want, nobody wants to live thinking that they're the most, that you know, having to pretend that they don't have shame. Oh, I'm cool. I'm the star. or that they don't have fear, they don't have anger and rage for not having your needs met. But we don't even notice the fraud. We just say, well, I'm going to be a good boy. I'm going to be the good student, or I'm going to be the rebel, or I'm going to be the what do you call it? The bad guy and get the girls. None of that stuff. That's all fraud. This whole world is based on fraud. You have a fraudulent government. Government's fraud. They give you an identity when you're born. Your date of birth, and they give you a formal name, and that's a fraud. It's a fraud. Then you have fraudulent medicine and fraudulent teachers and fraudulent schools and this whole reality is based on fraud. Nobody's being real. Nobody is in their heart. Nobody cares about anybody else. It's cartoon characters pretending to be a real person. And you say, oh, are you real? Oh yeah, I'm real. But you're not completely real, because so much of your consciousness is still in denial. It hasn't evolved, it hasn't grown, it hasn't been embraced, it hasn't allowed to fulfill the role that your will side, your emotional side, really has to give. We are a powerless people, and most people in the world are very powerless because our power is tied up in our emotional body. We deny our emotionals, we deny our power, and also our connectedness. So we're disconnected, powerless people, and that's what they call sheep. And everybody's got it to one degree or another, because they're inauthentic. They're ashamed of their feeling. They're ashamed of who they are. They're ashamed of expressing. They're ashamed of starting something new, or they're terrified of being judged. So, in this little video, I'd like to give you a process to do, some things to do. I've given you what a denial releasement looks like, and a judgment release looks like. I want you to take out a piece of paper and write down 3 or 4 things that you're absolutely the most ashamed of. And try to feel that. I mean, actually feel what you're ashamed of. Feel your shame. What you would never tell anybody. Your deepest secret. Write that down. And feel it as much as you can. And then from that feeling, staying with what is you're most ashamed of, what are the words that came out of that? I'm ashamed to be me. I'm ashamed to express. Or I can't get what I want. Or I'm not worthy of it. Or I wasn't wanted. Or I'm not acceptable. Well, find those things. The words that come from the feeling. And it's not easy to do, really. It's not easy to do without some help. And you've just been listening to my voice. But there's a lot of people out there who've been down this road before. And John Bradshaw is one, and Alice Miller is another. That if you're going to teach this stuff, you're going to be a teacher, you're going to heal yourself first, and then you can teach it. You need to know about John Bradshaw, and you need to know about judgment denial. And I've already given you some great things. I've given you, in the empowerment process, I've given you, I told you about doing the role playing. And when you go to somebody like John Bradshaw, which this video is going to be connected to, he talks about championing your inner child or reparenting yourself. When you were doing your empowerment, I'm empowering myself with strong and loving intent to heal my will, and you're doing it from and to, and creating these personas of being the detective that wants to know, or being the hero or the rescuer, or being the ideal adult, how to be an adult to yourself, or being the best parent, reparenting that child that is within inside of you, that part of your emotional body that has never been expressed because it's covered with shame, or it's been blamed, or it's been judged. You know, the judgments you have are the judgments that were given to you. Stop doing that. You're not, you didn't really feel that. You don't really feel that. You don't really hate your brother. Those denial of expressing your feelings, denial of your feelings. So you need to have, as an aspect of yourself, the best parent or the best healer or doctor or a nurse or a shaman that can say, look, here's what it is, and to bring back that mystical, magical self that you actually are. And yeah, it's deep, it's painful work. So there's two things: work on your deepest shame, find your deepest shame, and then feel it, and find out what the messages were that were given to you when you were shamed. And I gave you, when you were doing the empowerments, to go over the list of your the years in your life. Try to find out from your birth, what are the places where I felt ashamed or I felt denied, and write out what those are, because that's your history. That's the history of where you were jammed up, how you became a fraud, and how this world became a fraud, and how you can't tell the difference between a fraud outside and a fraud inside because it's all fake, and how to become authentic again. So, and then the other thing. So these are, and you're looking for the judgments and denials connected to the feeling. And the other thing is, denial denies you. Whatever you want to do, you're going to get denied. I can't do this. I couldn't do that. Oh, I can't express that. Oh, I could never say that. I could never be angry at God, or I could never be, say something bad about my mother or father, or brother, right? So there's things that hold you back. So I want you to, continue writing and title this, Things That Hold Me Back from Doing This Process Work, from becoming a teacher, or doing the healing work, however you want to put it. What are the things that hold you back? I'm not smart enough, it's too hard, emotions are too scary. You're going to need these right on the tip of your tongue, because when you're going to go to teach people how to do emotional release work or how to do judgment and denial work, their denials and judgments are going to come up, and you need to have a good vocabulary of what's holding you back. What's holding you back? Put it on there. What's holding me back from healing? What's holding me back from recovering or for being real? And there's a lot of judgments on there. They're all intertwined. The shame, and I can't express my feelings, and feelings are bad, or feelings are, every time you were crying too much, you got told to shut up. So I can't express my feelings. If I express how I really feel, and I'm going to hurt somebody else. All these are judgments and denials that hold you back from the fullness of who you are now. And they're infantile. They're junior little children kind of feelings. But these junior kind of feelings haven't been able to be incorporated and become adult and balanced and powerful allies. So now they appear to be the enemy. People actually hate their feelings. They hate their feelings. Oh, I don't want to act like a child. I don't want to be like all emotional all the time. I don't want to, I don't want to be just, a crybaby, or I don't want to be angry all the time. I have to control that shit. You know what I mean? They call it shit. But that is the best part of you. That is the fullness of who you are. It's not shit at all. When you go in there, you find out that shit is gold. That's where your power is. That's where your compassion is. That's where your love is. That's where you take the light of your consciousness and you force it down, turn it down, wish it down, love it down into the darkness of the dark night of the soul. That is love. That is the language of love. And that is what Language Lessons of the Heart is all about, is putting love into what doesn't have love. It has never been loved and has been denied love. Right? Find these places inside of you, find out what the judgments that are holding them in place, and feel the feelings. Feelings, judgments, and denial. Judgment, denial, feelings. That's how it works. And I'm going to tie this video to a playlist that I have on my page of John Bradshaw. This is homework this is for you to become a teacher. You need to know the kind of stuff that John Bradshaw teaches more than I can teach. So it's like think of him as like a second teacher. Although his models aren't exactly similar to mine, all the processes that he does, I do, but mine are a little bit more like concise. But he talks about championing the inner child, and he talks about 3 brains instead of 4 brains. I have 4 brains: spirit, heart, will, and body. But he has 3. You know, your head and your emotional body. So, then there's like, I don't know, I think 10 of these videos that John Bradshaw does. Keep out, and this is a college course. Okay, you're taking a college course on what's happened to you, on what happens to everybody, what happened to you. If you heal what happened to you, then you can help other people heal what happened to them. You have to heal yourself first, and that's the process. And you need to know, because just off the top of your head, we are living in denial of everything. So it's really important to have other people like me and other people like Alice Miller. You should read her books, and at least 2 or 3 of her top books, and read a few of John Bradshaw's top books, and watch the videos. So this is school. Don't just get swept away of, oh, it's just you know, like it's a movie. Take notes. See where he talks about how feelings mess up your life, and how it is, what a judgment does, and what is being denied, what is not fulfilled, what is not able to express, and what that does to a person, and what doing emotional release looks like. Because you're going to have to do that to yourself. And it is good, fantastic actually, that you can do that for yourself. You know, whatever shame there is about crying and motioning and beating pillows or whatever it is that you have to do, get rid of all those judgments. That's bullshit that's been holding you back for, I don't know, however old you are. Get rid of those judgments, get rid of that denial, and open up the possibility for your intent to heal to manifest down into what needs healing the most. And then when you go down in there, you keep taking notes in your mind and keep being clear about it, and don't just get swept away. Be clear about it, and then whatever you find you can teach. The bones are there. The empowerment process, very, very powerful. If you could just do that process really, really properly, that would change your life. That's an instant healing that will allow the vibrational frequency of going from living a life continually damaged and continually being a fraud to that one point where you begin to turn around and become authentic, become real, become true. And what was continued to be wounding and damaging turns around and becomes healing. Just that empowerment, doing that properly, so powerful. I can't overstate that enough. And then the judgment and denial release, once you start to learn how that is, how it works, start to learn, become the super detective and find out how these judgments are connected to the feelings and what happens when you let them go, and then replace them with what's good and what's better and what's the right way of being. It's fantastic. And then emotional release is just so cathartic. It is so powerful. All kind of energy gets released. Your psychic abilities open up. Your compassion opens up. Your connectedness to other people. All the stuff that you're closed off to now because of your shame, and all that opens up. You're connected to nature, connected to the earth, connected to the whole universe. Is through your and that's what's been denied. Oh my God. Yeah, you really want to know. You want to know this. So take notes on do those processes that I talked about, judgment and denial release, on your shame, all the stuff that shamed you, and really focus in hard on all the stuff that would hold you back from doing this work. Yeah. Oh, it's too petty. It's too easy, or it'll never work. It's just, oh, this is nothing. I will never change. You know, it's too hard. It's too painful. You say these are judgments. It's not hard. It's not painful. What's holding it in is hard. It's taken your whole life to hold this stuff in. And then you had to create, and then all that energy you took to create a fraudulent personality that you call identity. That's what's hard. Then you're wondering why your wife leaves you or your husband leaves you, because it's two fraudulent people. There are no real people there. It's his needs and her needs, and everybody pretending to be nicer than they are or worse than they are, or powerful struggle or whatever. That's not. It's fraud. It's fraud. It's not love. Okay, so enjoy John Bradshaw. Take notes. Do your work. It's worthwhile. It is really, really, really worthwhile. If you were going to go to do some John Bradshaw work and you go out to Arizona or wherever their clinic is, it's a big clinic, it costs $50,000 for 1 week for one person. Okay? So what I'm teaching you is worth that much. And what John Bradshaw teaches is worth that much. So the little squirrel cage in the brain, value what's being taught. Value what John Bradshaw says, and value the process. Because money cannot buy it when you do it. Money cannot buy it. And if you don't value this process enough for you to do it, how are you going to be able to teach somebody else? It is very, very valuable. So that's another judgment. It's worthless. It's not worth doing. Or this is some kind of cheap trick. No, it's not a cheap trick. A cheap trick is living a life of fraud and pretending to be rich and famous or poor and struggling, or continue to be the abused person or the abuser person. None of that stuff. John Bradshaw.